Spirit said, do something different. So every time there's a fifth Sunday, share the energy and information of what we believe in a different way so people can experience it. You know, because we need to learn through other than sitting and listening.
Right.
You know, sometimes you go, oh, it's Cindy again. Can we mix it up a bit? So every fifth Sunday, and we've been doing this for almost 10 years. So this Sunday, we have a little place, not one of our big action-packed ones, but we hope that by hearing the information in the way that it's presented, that it would be a blessing to you. And so breathe in, let your hearts be open. We know that over time, how we worship, we tend to get into traditions. And so what we want to look at this morning is the thoughts of man and with some of the traditional ideas, and how we might just look at things a little bit differently. So I give you perspective.
Perspective. In our studies about the perceptions of God and the religious practices and beliefs in our history, we have seen a lot of ideas that have carried forward in time. And while a lot of these ideas still aren't practiced by us today, they don't hold the same meaning as they did when they were first established. Our world has changed, and so should our perceptions.
Perspective. One's particular viewing point of the world.
Life, it's all about perspective. It's how we see things. How we see things really does determine how we define our world. But how we define our world determines how we see things. It's a vicious circle, if you will. And as we as a people have become caught in that vicious circle, we start to see things the same way that we always have.
Our God is spirit. They who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Aquarian Gospel 81:27.
We are taught that God is, was, and always will be. God's constant, never changing. So, if this is true, then how is it that our beliefs about God throughout history have changed so much? I mean, they're just so diverse. It's all about perspective. So, to explain this concept of perspective a little bit more to you, we have some guests who are going to join us today. Let me introduce you to them. First, we have our ancient man. And then we have our modern woman. And then our metaphysical man. We're going to see how the perspective of each one of these individuals has changed. And we're going to begin by seeing how each one of them would have perceived normal occurrences in weather.
A great winter storm is approaching. The winds are hard. The cold is unbearable.
God, why have you turned your face from us? What have we done to deserve your wrath? We beg you turn your face back to us. We'll sacrifice whatever you ask. God is punishing us. We must find a way to protect ourselves. Who's responsible for this act of God? We'll find them, and then God will be appeased. That's it. The sun will shine again. Now who is to blame?
A great winter storm is approaching. The winds are hard. The cold is unbearable.
Wow, what a storm is coming. The Arctic winds are sure blowing out of Canada. And the wind current shifted just enough this year to give us a deep freeze. This will be good for our ground and mosquito population. Good thing we have such great technologies these days to protect us. Great heating, great clothing. We're covered. We're good to go.
A great winter storm is approaching. The winds are hard. The cold is unbearable.
Wow. Storm's coming. The Arctic winds are sure blowing out of Canada. But I wonder why we would need to create this. Is there something as a community that we need to learn from this? I wonder how this deep freeze will really help us. Will it help the mosquitoes go down? Or will it help the crops grow better? Or does Mother Earth really just need a break from all our long hot summers? You know, it could be all the northerners coming down here and bringing their snow consciousness with them. Yeah. It happens,
demonstrated here, you can see in the modern woman here that there has been a shift in perspective from the ancient man. As we've expanded our awareness about the scientific functions of nature, about tides and stuff like that, we factored out the fear that our ancestors once had. In the modern world, we have learned that the activities of Mother Earth, winds and tides and earthquakes and all kinds of things like that, that basically they're somewhat predictable. But metaphysically, we do realize that all activities, including weather patterns, they respond to the consciousness of man. Yes, the Mother Earth does have her own agenda, okay? But she certainly is following mankind's lead.
Mainland China had a historical pattern of extreme heavy rain that would flood their southern region at the same time every year. Hong Kong, while under the British rule, was never affected by this weather pattern. That is, until the year that they became, once again, a part of mainland China. That year, when the heavy rains began, the rain pattern shifted. It went just a little further south than it normally did, and Hong Kong experienced its first major deluge. It was now officially a part of the consciousness of the country of China.
So, let's take a look at some of the religious teachings over time. Different times, different perspectives. Even Jesus' teachings have been viewed entirely different since the last 2,000 years. But we'll start with some basic concepts first. How about God?
God. Power. Ruler of the stars and earth. Power.
God? Yeah, there's a God. You know, the big guy in the sky. I mean, someone's got to be in charge. I mean, mankind's kind of running things now, but I sure hope there's a God.
God, nearer than hands and feet. God is the energy that created us all. God is the energy that flows through us all. God is an active, intelligent spirit, one that cares for me in every choice that I make. God is.
So do you see how different perceptions are creating a different reality? So now, how about prayer?
Prayer. Prayers must be said. There are certain prayers that must be said at certain times. The priest must say the important prayers. They're important people. They've been taught how to pray correctly. Prayers and sacrifices. You must sacrifice too, you know. It keeps the priest connected with God. So all goes well for our people.
Prayer is what you do when all else fails. Prayer is about asking God for help. I mean, you don't know if He will, but you know you've done everything you can, so you pray for God for help, for things you can't control.
Prayer is a time of communion with God. You don't really have to ask for anything. God knows your needs. Prayer is a time for us to have the chance to connect our hearts with God's hearts. It really gives us the opportunity to realize that God's a part of every aspect of our world.
All ages have held the concept of a higher power. They believe that if there was something that they didn't understand, something that was out of their control, it must have been in the control of a higher power. So each in their own way, each one really did try to connect to that higher power, or to God.
Jesus said to come apart and pray often. In the quiet of your closet, open your mind and heart to your Father. Men carry with them all the time the secret place where they may meet their God. They may at once, at any time, fling wide the door and find the silence, find the house of God. It is within the soul. Aquarian 40, 6 and 7.
So, Now let's talk about sin.
Sin, transgression of God's law. The law must be obeyed. Moses received the laws from the mouth of God. The laws must be obeyed exactly.
Sin. Well, we don't use that word much anymore, but we still believe in it. Sin. It's doing something you know is wrong. That's it. That's sin.
Sin is anything that takes you off your path to God. That's really what we think Jesus was trying to teach us. Not that we can offend God, but we can certainly make choices that lead us away from Him.
So biblically, if you study the language of time, you find that the phrase repent and sin no more really meant to change your self-serving kind of behavior and become awake to God's love.
Jesus said, "Go and sin no more."
So when Jesus said that, what He really meant, go and stop doing what you've been doing. Change your life and turn your heart to God. So let's take a look at another concept. How about forgiveness?
Forgiveness. You have to make it right. If a wrong has been committed, you have to make it right. You must give exactly what the law prescribes.
Forgiveness. When someone does something wrong, don't retaliate. You let it go. That's how you forgive. You ignore the offense, you let it slide, and you say, forget about it.
Forgiveness means to give forth love. When someone hurts or harms you in any way, you don't insist on needing to know why. You release the attachment to the experience. You release the attachment. You don't blame, you don't try to get even. You send love to all of those who were involved, including yourself.
Then Peter came to him and said, "Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times. Jesus said unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Matthew 18:21-22.
Jesus taught us that God does not judge us. We judge ourselves. We judge ourselves, our creations, our choices, but ultimately we must learn to forgive ourselves. We are the creator of our experiences. And we need to forgive ourselves for our experiences. Now, with that being said, how about grace?
Grace? Never heard of it.
Grace. That's another one of those words we don't use much anymore. But grace, yeah, sometimes it's still there. Grace is when God gives you something you don't deserve.
Grace, it's like forgiveness, but when grace is there, it really breaks a pattern. Grace, when someone hurts or harms you in any way, you don't react. All you do is you send love. You feel God's love flowing through you, and you send it to them. By not reacting to their harshness and sending them love, you sent them grace.
Huh.
Yeah. Grace, forgiveness. It really does break the pattern. It's like you're so connected with God's love that you can see their soul. They send you harshness, you send love. If they really wanted to find someone to fight with, if they really want to experience conflict, they will find someone else to fight with. But what you have given them is grace. And you can ask for grace yourself. You can ask God to maybe lessen some experience that you might have created. Make your karma a little bit easier. Grace is available to anyone who asks. I know, because I've asked.
If you would be discharged from all the debts you owe to God and man, the debts you have incurred by willfully transgressing universal law, you must pass by the debts of every man, for as you deal with other men, God will deal with you. Aquarian 94:12-13.
Grace is a very interesting concept. It has a tremendous amount of untapped potential.